Hi, I'm Barry Ostrowski. At RWJ Barnabas Health, we believe that everyone needs to be informed about the important healthcare issues affecting their lives. That's why we're proud to support the important educational programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato in your neighborhood, New Brunswick, has been provided by Johnson & Johnson, RWJ Barnabas Health, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the Terrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, and by Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. Promotional support provided by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey. And by hipnewjersey.com. Live hard, work hard, play hard. You're from New Jersey, and so are we.
This is One-on-One.
I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
That's a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. In this edition of NJTV's In Your Neighborhood series, we look at the great city of New Brunswick, New Jersey. In this half hour, I'll interview leaders in the fields of art and theater who are reaching out to the community and helping children explore their creativity in the most unique way. You'll also hear from my colleague Joanna Gagis, who looks at one organization that is working to improve the lives of New Brunswick residents by connecting local corporations and institutions with the community. We hope you enjoy this very special edition of In Your Neighborhood, New Brunswick. I am pleased to welcome Anna Marie Gewirtz. You're with us as a former staff person of the Caucus Educational Corporation a few years back, and now you're doing great things at State Theater. Tell folks what State Theater is all about.
Sure. So the State Theater is an 1,850-seat performance theater in downtown New Brunswick. We have all different kinds of performances, everything from Broadway, classical, comedy, rock, pop, family shows, variety. So there's something for everyone.
So it's so interesting, again, because you know our operation as a not-for-profit television production company, and you've been in the development, external affairs, fundraising operation, and you love the arts. You're an artist yourself. I've had the pleasure of being able to listen to you play the piano. You're exceptional in that regard. You love the arts, always have?
I always have, yeah. I was very lucky. I had music lessons from a very young age. When I was 4, I started taking piano lessons, and then later I took French horn, and I took voice lessons later on. So my parents felt like arts needed to be part of our education, and we were really fortunate. And then later in my teens, I started realizing that not everyone had that same exposure to the arts. So I got a chance to volunteer and do some performances for inner city schools, teaching kids classical and jazz music. I did a piano class at the Count Basie Learning Center down in Red Bank, and I had 10 kids in my piano class, which gave me a run for my money. But I felt very strongly that everyone should have access to the arts.
So now at State, the whole idea of arts education, the whole idea of making arts more accessible, how, dare I use the term, marketable is that, and how challenging is it to raise money around those efforts?
Well, it's a great question. We have, our ticket sales at the State Theater only represent about 58% of our operating costs.
That's ticket sales, 58%?
Correct.
What's the rest?
So the rest is, we have contributed income, which is about over $3 million a year that we raise. And that helps subsidize and pay for—
Is that corporate sponsors?
Corporate sponsors, foundations, individuals. We have some government money as well. But all of that together helps pay for the education and outreach programs that we do for the community.
Let's talk about, is it relaxed performances?
Mm-hmm.
What are those?
Sure. So this is a program we started about 2 years ago. It's very near and dear to my heart. My brother is an arts and drama teacher at a special needs school, and we have a lot of friends that have kids on the spectrum. So this is a program for children and adults who are on the spectrum. And we offer a welcoming, warm environment with sensory-friendly performances. We have a calming room with fidget toys and activities if the kids need to take a break. We have we alter the light and sound of the performances so that it creates a stress-free atmosphere for the kids. We have ushers and volunteers who are specially trained to work with kids on the spectrum.
You're talking about the autism spectrum.
Correct. So it offers.
What does it do for them?
Well, it really it does a couple things. We have families and schools that come, and these are often kids that do not have exposure to the arts, so they get a chance to come to a performance. And if it's a relaxed atmosphere, so if the kid needs to move around, if they make noise, it's okay. And we really we are very happy to create that atmosphere. And a lot of families have told us maybe they have one child who's on the autism spectrum, but they have other kids who are not. The whole family can come, and we've heard from many families that this is a chance that they haven't had in the past because they now feel like they can be accepted and not looked at as strange.
What would you describe as the audience for the arts today, and is it evolving dramatically?
It is evolving. I think the audiences that a lot of people think of when they think of arts audiences, people think they're in their 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Do they skew not as old as I think?
Yes, it really depends on the genre. So we have our International Classical Series, and our audiences for that are typically in their 50s, 60s, 70s.
Got it.
But we offer really reduced tickets for those performances, and we are starting to see families. We're starting to see young people coming in on date nights. So that's something that is a big part of our mission, is about creating access.
What about Family Day?
Family Day
is
it's an annual event. We've done this for 9 years now. It's every President's Day. So usually the schools are closed and most parents are off of work. So they're looking for something to do to get the kids out of the house. And we have typically about 6,000 to 8,000 people that come.
Really?
It's a whole day of free activities for families. We've got arts performances, we have free workshops, music, drama, and dance workshops. We've got arts and crafts and costume characters and balloon animals, you name it.
That's awesome.
Almost all of it's free. The one thing that we do charge for are the main stage performances, and we have 3 of those. And we've had the Big Apple Circus and Jack Hanna with his live animal show. This year we've got Light Wire Theater. We've had Very Hungry Caterpillar. So shows like that are really fun for the whole family, and the tickets for that start at just $15. So
you've done well, and I
you.
want to thank you for contributing to the arts in this state by helping to raise money and awareness and sending the message in marketing and branding. It's great stuff. We appreciate everything you're doing. Well done, okay?
Thank you.
Stay right there. We'll be right back right after this on One-on-One on our new set.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Welcome back to One-on-One. I'm Joanna Gagis. As part of NJTV's In Your Neighborhood special, we're looking right now at the nonprofit New Brunswick Tomorrow. I'm joined right now by Jaymie Santiago, who is the president and CEO of New Brunswick Tomorrow. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
What is New Brunswick Tomorrow? Describe it for us.
Well, New Brunswick Tomorrow is a nonprofit in the city. We work on quality of life issues related to kids and youth, related to the neighborhoods, related to health and healthcare, and leadership development. And so as a nonprofit, we really work towards bettering people and people's lives.
What are the quality of life issues that you're seeing in New Brunswick, particularly in the lower income communities?
Sure. I mean, we're an urban center. New Brunswick is right smack in the middle of the state, and so it's not unique for urban centers, but we're seeing things related to crime and safety concerns, immigration concerns, which are popular now.
How would you describe the demographic in New Brunswick?
It's about 50% Hispanic, and the rest is mixed, predominantly African-American, white, and Asian. But the biggest portion of our community is a Latino, Hispanic identified community.
So in terms of identifying the issues, what are they? How are they impacting the community, and why is there a disparity in what we're seeing in terms of the redevelopment of New Brunswick? Loaded question, I know.
That is loaded. I think that the biggest issues surrounding our community, at least the folks that we speak to on a day-to-day, are related to just access to services that we take for granted. And so we really work to connect communities to, first, those services, those resources that exist, and New Brunswick has a ton of them.
Can you give me some examples?
Sure.
I want to make this tangible. What are some services that you're seeing are needed?
Sure. Well, with a predominantly Hispanic community and a low-income community, one of the things that we work on is helping connect our residents to healthcare services. And so in 2 of the communities that we work in, primarily in the center of the city, what we know is about 40% of those residents don't have insurance. And so for us, if we want to create a healthy city, and New Brunswick is known as Healthcare City, how do we open their ability to access those services? And so we work with the hospitals, with Johnson & Johnson and others to make sure that those services that are available to all, regardless of whether or not you have a green card in your pocket, a driver's license, or some form of insurance.
So New Brunswick really has been at the forefront of this urban redevelopment, right? And we've seen, look, I was a Rutgers student. I went to New Brunswick, Rutgers, New Brunswick, and there was a time where you didn't really cross George Street outside of a bus or a car because it was dangerous. And now we've seen this incredible redevelopment of the George Street area, from the playhouses and the theaters to the restaurants and the Heldrich Hotel. So there's this energy, right, and this vibrancy. When you step just a few blocks away, what do you see? Is there a drop-off?
I think that there is a slight drop-off. I think it was much worse maybe 40 years ago when New Brunswick Tomorrow was established. But year after year, it gets better. But still, there's this invisible barrier that exists between the university and the neighborhoods in town. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we are an urban center. And so a lot of folks come into New Brunswick as a port of entry city. And so for us, it's about how do we support those families that are looking to set roots in this city or in this state, and help them achieve what others in the city are achieving. So the folks at Rutgers University really work with us to help strengthen those connections. There's a long way to go, but they're absolutely an asset in the city, and we work together to make sure that every household, including those with students in them, are served fairly, justly, just like our residents, our long-term residents that are there in the city.
So you have this program called New Brunswick Ciclovia,
We do.
right? Explain what ciclovia means, first of all.
So ciclovia is it's actually a made-up term. It has a long history, but it's a word mashup. Ciclo means bike, via means way in Spanish, and it comes from Colombia, Bogota, Colombia. The idea is that for the initiative, you shut down the streets. And for us, we shut down 3.5 miles of the city, and we connect one part of the community, the neighborhoods, with another part, the university. So if you're familiar with New Brunswick, what we've done is we've essentially connected the city in one event, New Brunswick Ciclovia, where we've transformed the street into this linear park. Where folks can enjoy it, explore the city, try a new small business or restaurant, connect with each other. So it's not unusual to see the mayor walking on the route, or
kids playing in the
streets. Kids playing in the streets, faculty, and they're not just playing. I mean, they're drawing on the street, they're riding their bicycle on the street. And they're even climbing a rock wall on the street, right? So you can imagine this souped up street fair that really serves to connect the city in many different ways.
How? What does it do for residents when they see this connection, when they see people enjoying the city in a different way?
Yeah. One of my favorite stories from Ciclovia is we have a charter school called the Greater Brunswick Charter School in the city, and they hosted a walkathon. And I walked with some of the parents, and when we got to Rutgers University, I heard them say that it was their first time stepping on campus. And now these are parents with children that are probably in 7th grade or 8th grade. And to hear that both encouraged me. We're doing something to help our residents connect to this valuable resource.
That's literally in their backyard.
Literally,
but not
yeah.
in their awareness. And by stepping on those grounds, are you opening their eyes in a way? Are you showing them something that's attainable?
Absolutely. Well, in that moment, I realized that we eliminated a barrier, right? And for some of us, it's an invisible barrier we call Route 27, which cuts through New Brunswick. But for others, it's a, am I allowed to do this kind of mentality? And the truth is, Rutgers is open to everybody and anybody. It's a state university. So when I heard that, I was encouraged by it. But then I was also fueled by it, right? Because how many others in our town are experiencing the same kind of barrier? And so the Ciclovia has taken off. Since that event, that was part of our first event, there was 4,000 participants at that Ciclovia. We now draw over 16,000 participants per Ciclovia. These are residents that are exploring the city in a new way from the middle of the street and seeing what the city has to offer.
The Esperanza Neighborhood Project is another one. Describe that.
Mm-hmm. The Esperanza neighborhood is one of the poorest neighborhoods in town. It's also the largest neighborhood development project that we've undertaken as an organization. And so we work in the neighborhood to really build more intently those social connections with each other. And so I love that project because I grew up in a town very similar to New Brunswick. And so Perth Amboy is, it doesn't have all the same resources. In fact, it doesn't have very many resources that New Brunswick has. But one of the things that I experienced when I was there is that in low-income communities, a lot of families experience isolation. Isolation because parents are working 2 jobs and kids are being told to stay at home because of safety concerns, or isolation because there's not very much out there available. And so in the city of New Brunswick, something like a Ciclovia helps to break down those barriers. And the Esperanza Neighborhood Project, what we do is help give the residents voice on issues related to work. And so New Brunswick passed the first wage theft ordinance in the state. We've passed ordinances on sick time and paid sick time. One of the more unique ones in the state, there are, I believe, 13 to 15 ordinances like that in the state.
They're having a direct impact on the lives of these residents.
Absolutely, and we help to build the infrastructure, talk to the residents, bring that before people who can influence some of the policies and decisions in the city, really advocate for our community.
And in just a few seconds that we have left, how important are the relationships, especially with the major corporations in the city, from J&J to Wells Fargo, Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, Verizon, PNC Bank, so many, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation?
I'd say that it's critical to our work, particularly Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson created New Brunswick Tomorrow in 1975, and they created us because they saw that disparity that you were referring to, and they said, if we're going to stay in this city, we need to make sure that the city is thriving, not just our corporation. So Johnson & Johnson really lives their credo, and we're very appreciative for that. And so as a city, we are a model for social revitalization. And so if you come to New Brunswick, you'll see it's a very different New Brunswick than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, and we're very proud of that.
And we're very proud of you, the work that you're doing at New Brunswick Tomorrow, certainly the work that J&J is doing, but a lot more needs to be done, right? So we can't, got to keep powering forward at this point. Jaymie Santiago, President and CEO, New Brunswick Tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with more right after this.
To watch more one-on-one with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to be joined by Amanda Potter, Curator of Education and Interpretation for the Zimmerli Art Museum at Rutgers University. Good to see you, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
Describe this wonderful museum.
The Zimmerli is part of Rutgers. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary. We house one of the largest university art collections in the country. Everything from American and European art, but what we're really well known for is our collection of Soviet nonconformist art, which is...
I'm sorry, what is again?
Soviet nonconformist art. Art basically that was not officially approved of by the communist government during the Soviet Union. Very interesting stuff. Art that was either, politically critical of the government or just in a style that wasn't acceptable to Stalin and his successors. Very, very interesting work, and it's a wonderful teaching resource as well.
Joseph Stalin did not love art, did he?
Oh, he loved art that was...
The art that he controlled.
Yes, and that was very positive,
right.
And spoke highly of the Soviet Union and was very clear. He favored a style called socialist realism, so it had to be no uncertainty, no ambiguity.
That goes against the concept of artistic expression.
It certainly does.
So let me ask you this, the audience for the work there at the museum is?
So obviously a big part of our audience is the university, both faculty, students, and staff. So we do see a lot of classes. We tailor to them. We have an academic programming curator that works specifically to find those deep connections. So we have, of course, art and art history, but also classes on media, history, environmental sciences. We even work with the medical colleges.
How do you connect this to children so young?
So
it's about growing up great.
Yes. So I'm here to speak about one of our longest running programs, which is our preschool storytelling adventures in art. Preschool adventures in art and storytelling. It is a program that we really enjoy doing because reaching children at that young age is one of the earliest, it's one of the best indicators of them feeling comfortable in the museum later in their life. They feel that they there's an exposure, simply walking in the doors of a place that is so different from their school environment, from their home environment. They learn to look at art, to identify different types of art, have some of the vocabulary that they can use. And that vocabulary, one of the reasons this is a program that we run out of the education department, that vocabulary has been shown to be important for pre-literacy skills. So these are.
Does it help them grow the vocabulary skills?
Yes. So we're introducing words like portrait, landscape, abstract. Also, just getting them to speak about what they see. It's different than reading stories, reading comprehension. They are when they come for our programs, they first work with a storyteller. We have a resident storyteller at the museum. His name's Gerald Fierst. He's a wonderful and very expressive storyteller, and so he works.
Explain that. Sorry for interrupting. Explain that for a second. Explain that for a second, Amanda. Storytellers. People think, oh, so kids get told stories. It's not that.
No.
From what I've seen, it's much more engaging, interactive, challenging. Open-ended questions are asked. They're pulled in. Talk about that.
So yes, that is it. It is very engaging, very interactive. So telling stories that. It's different than being read to as a child. There's nothing that they can kind of...
That's a one-way communication experience, very passive.
Exactly. So this is something that they are doing actions, or they're following instructions, they're predicting, they're responding, like theater almost in a way. And so it's really focusing on their listening skills, their ability to predict what's going to happen next, to follow and remember patterns that go through this, because
it's critical thinking as well.
Exactly, and many great stories, they rely on repetition. Something happens, there's maybe a hiccup, something happens again, and eventually there's success. So those great stories, things like Goldilocks, for example, that's a story where there's that pattern of something's not quite right. Again, she tries again, it's not quite right, and finally the third one is, the one that she's looking for.
What do you see in these children, or many of them, when they experience a program like this? What kind of changes do you see in them?
I've had teachers tell me really wonderful things. So the visit begins with storytelling, then we go into the galleries. Artists and storytellers are both communicators, and then we ask the children at the end of their visit to come down and draw with us. I've had teachers tell me that they have seen their children draw in a way that they've never drawn before. There's more sophistication, there's more detail in their drawing. So something has been stimulated, something has been activated in them that wasn't being.
Is that the interpretation part of all this?
So the interpretation part of my job is kind of a references more actually the passive learning so labels, other texts and things that are in the galleries for our regular visits. So I think of the education part as programs, really places where we are working, face to face with visitors. The interpretation part is something that maybe is just there for the visitors that are coming in without necessarily interacting with a person from
Before
our
let's
staff.
chat here, what's a heat tube?
So heat tubs.
Heat tubs? Not even tubes, they're tubs.
Yeah, they are metal cylinders. There's 3 aluminum cylinders. So they certainly could be described as tubes, but the artist John Goodyear called them heat tubs. It's one of the highlights of our American collection. These were made
We're looking at them as you're speaking. Go ahead.
So they're made in the 1960s. They're one of the works we love to use in the storytelling program, one of the most popular for sure, because it's a work that the children can actually touch. That's when, one of the biggest things and difficult for both children and adults is that can't touch in the museum, even though there's some very inviting things. The heat tubs, John Goodyear was interested in art that did engage both your sense of touch as well as your sight. So that each tub is set to a different temperature. There's one that's kind of cold. There's one that you touch and it's you think, well, you're not actually going to get burned, but you're like, oh, that's quite hot. And then there's one that's really just warm. And so I have the children experience that. I don't tell them a lot about it first, but then we do go back and ask them, can you think of a story where something is too cold, something is too hot, and then the third is just right. So we're making a connection to the Goldilocks
How much do you love what you do?
I love what I do.
Because?
Because I get to work with kids every day. I get to work in a beautiful environment at a great university. And there's no 2 days that are the same. I'm working right now with our summer art camp. We're out at the Rutgers Gardens working on art and nature programs. So it's a wonderful job that really is always full of new challenges.
Amanda Potter, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Helping our kids grow up great.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato in your neighborhood, New Brunswick, has been provided by Johnson & Johnson, RWJ Barnabas Health, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the Terrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by Choose New Jersey, transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Highly educated and perfectly located in the heart of the Northeast Corridor, New Jersey provides access to top talent and one of the most concentrated and diverse consumer markets in the world. A business located in central New Jersey has access to more than 22 million consumers within a 2-hour drive. Whether it's our strategic location, transportation systems, reliable utilities, or talented workforce, New Jersey has all you need to grow your business. To learn more, visit choosenj.com.